Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you ever so much for making this session and being so spontaneous with us. So I see Alexander Knödel from Dailypoint. Hi to Munich, I guess.
Hi, yeah.
Hi. And I see Neha and Patrick from Amsterdam, from Revinate.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi. And I see Nikki Graham from Cendyn in the right top corner. Hi, Nikki. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Are you in London?
I am, yes. Rainy London.
Rainy London. Well, we've got amazing weather here in Berlin, which you wouldn't see if there was ITV going on anyway. So you're not missing out on anything. And then we've got John Seaton from Cendyn as well joining the panel.
Hi.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? Are you also in London?
I'm actually in the south of the UK, so not too far from London.
Oh, great. So are you at the beach enjoying the sunshine?
Well, yeah, not quite. I wish.
It's still the UK then, I guess.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, oh no, sorry, I've got Angeline with me, but online we've got Tony Loeb from Experience Hotel tuning in from Paris, Tony.
Where it's very rainy too. It's the same weather as in London. It's raining. It's non-stop since a few days.
Yeah. And last but not least, then I've got Angeline Bungay from Profit Room, who spontaneously also joined the panel with us, that we are also aiming for a diverse panel. And I'm very much looking forward to this session. So let's jump into it. It's supposed to be a roundtable discussion. So if you have any ideas to complete the sentences of the other, just go ahead. Okay?
Okay.
So my first question is, individually, what is guest experience for you? Starting maybe with Angeline here next to me.
Yep. So the guest journey starts for me when they start searching straight away. So they decided they wanted to go to a location, because most guests these days know where they want to go. And then they go on to Google or booking.com and they press search. And that is when the customer journey starts for me.
Alexander, what is in your experience? What's your customer journey? Where do you take your customers on from which point on?
Well, actually, it's also we cover the whole customer journey, and I think, well, as you said, like it starts with the communication, or when they hit the website, and then the communication. But I think it's always very important to give them a good experience while they're on location, when they check in, and when they go to the restaurant, when they go to the spa, and everywhere actually, and use the data that you collect with your CRM and use that in your other system to give them a good experience.
Anybody something to add?
Yeah, can I just jump in? So,
yeah.
Absolutely. I think what Alexander just said was a very good point there. And from our perspective, a guest experience really does start when you're actually looking for a hotel to go and stay in. And therefore, how do you, as a hotelier, start delivering that personalized content to someone that's looking to come and stay? Now, that person may have stayed with you before. It may be a new guest. And so it's really to start driving that personalized messaging to that guest at that point. And so where is that exactly? It depends. If you're going to go and book through an OTA, you're going to get less of a personalized experience from a hotel than if you actually go onto a hotel's own website. And really, that's where I think it starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say I completely agree with both of you, Alexander and John, on the way that the fact that the guest experience is actually starting at the beginning, when they are looking for a hotel. And I just want to add a little point that, in my opinion, the experience is not necessarily about what is truly happening. It's about how the guest feels, how he perceives that the things are happening. For example, let's say that he's sleeping in a room and he's getting the free Wi-Fi, but for him it's normal. Then it's not experience. It's not a special experience. However, if he feels like he's getting a special thing because it's supposed to be a paying Wi-Fi, but he's getting it for free, then it feels like, oh wow, this is a personal experience. It's really about perception, more than just what is really happening. It's the way you perceive the guest.
Yeah, I also agree. I think when it comes to guest experience, it's really about the perception of the guest, which also for us is actually not only during the stay. Let's assume somebody like a guest is staying in a hotel. It's not really the stay. Actually, 61% of the guests book 3 to 4 months before the arrival. So it's really also on the one hand, the phase where no active bookings are available, where you are able to communicate with the guest about, how about coming back? But also the pre-arrival phase that I just mentioned is really interesting to communicate some nice upsells, but also ask the guest, what are your preferences for the next stay? And this actually helps you a lot to enhance the actual stay and the actual experience that we're talking about.
Are guests already expecting that? I mean, guest expectations are increasing, not only driven by hospitality, but you get the personalized coffee in Starbucks with your name on it, and we live in this expectations economy. How does that translate, these expectations by the guest in hospitality itself?
Well, I might just add something there for that. I think, just going back from what we were talking about before and kind of guest experience and that expectation, I think, to your point, through everyday things that we do now, there's that expectation from a consumer perspective that we are going to have, a seamless experience, or something that at least is easy to do, and not kind of putting up barriers for us. So, for example, when you want to go and book travel, whether it's getting a taxi or if you want to use public transport, you're likely to use something like Uber. Well, they'll know all the information about you. They'll know where you are. They'll know your home. They know where potentially you want to go because it will remember the places you've been. So I think from that perspective, hoteliers really need to think about how, obviously, to maintain that kind of level of expectation, but also add the other layer of, which really is hospitality, and it's thinking about that kind of surprise and delight thing. So as well as providing that, grounded expectation of what we should have, it's also now adding another layer of that. Okay, so we do know what you've done in the past. What does that mean that, you might expect to do this time? Okay, maybe this is your room preference, so we'll always make sure that you have that. But as well as things like your favorite wine, maybe we'll have that in the room ready for you on your arrival. Or, Tony, you gave the example of the Wi-Fi and things like that. So other items that perhaps, I think for hoteliers have kind of been sort of at the moment above and beyond should be a standard. It's now thinking about that other layer on top that really you need data for. And that's where all of us come in to help hoteliers with that, to access that data.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you're completely right, Nikki, on this new layer that needs to be added on top. And for me, one of the key things when you're entering into this customization, personalization, is to be able, and like you said, to have sufficient data to propose something which is personalized. I'm giving you a very basic example, but it's you cannot make a worse guest experience by proposing a romantic package to somebody who is coming alone for a business reason.
Yeah.
Did you ever look once again to my booking before to propose me a romantic package? And it's part of this personalization,
But it's a fine line that we have to remember, that it doesn't end up being robotic and feeling like you're being stalked as a guest. So the room is a great analogy, whereas I quite like it if I was always staying in the same hotel and the front desk said, "Oh, I can see you always like room 109. Would you like to go back in there again?" Because if you just gave me room 109, I might actually not like it because it's next to the lift. And I'd love if they remembered my bottle of wine, then that's fantastic because they've put that on room service, So that is a really good piece of information. But I wouldn't like to walk up to the front desk and they say, so I see you had a pint of Peroni and a pint of Stella at the bar the last time you were here. Would you like me to pour them for you again?
And I think that's a really good point, but I think that's where, you know, hoteliers, that's what they're good at. Like, this is their forte, you know, that personable, approachable, you know, people that they are. That's why they're in that industry. And I think, you know, our purpose as CRM platforms is to be able to provide them with the means to do that job even better. So provide that kind of personable, what you know, exactly what you're talking about, that real kind of hospitality feel, but just do it with the right information. And you know, they do that so well, and we're never going to be able to teach that. It's just we need to give them the right information.
Yeah, that is really right. We're not here to replace the human.
Yeah,
you know, we are here to help. It's, you know, an example I give often, you know, when I'm talking to my customer is, when will you see a computer write the new bestseller? It will never happen. It will always be a human, a writer doing something that is good at. The informating is just here to help him to do it better, faster, you know, in a more organized way. And that is our role. We are here to help the hotelier to do his guest experience job better. We cannot replace him. This would be a big mistake. I think we will agree on that.
Yeah,
Tony, sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, maybe I can add to that. I think that perfectly leads into, you know, from personal experience and meeting the customer expectation. I think already leads into, you know, some sort of a loyalty. When you feel that your preferences and, you know, your likes are being, you know, rewarded, respected, all of that. You know, that is kind of the next step towards loyalty. You know, I'm not, like me particular, I'm loyal to, you know, my barbershop, and I'm loyal to, you know, the place where I grab a coffee in the morning, because they know me. They know what kind of product I'm choosing. They recognize me. And now, of course, if you look at hotels with, you know, customer base of, you know, whatever, 10,000 contacts in there, you cannot expect them to know every single guest that stayed with them over the last 3 years. But every single one of us here in this audience, you know, we're there with technology, and technology helps. And if it's a simple pre-arrivals report in the morning telling them, you know, which 25 guests are checking in, what their preferences are, you know, how they responded in the last survey. Like, this is a little, you know, tech help that we can give them and enable them to deliver a service that at the end leads to more loyal guests. And I think that's where we all experts at. You know, that's the missing gap in between, you know, hey, I have 10,000 contacts in my database. How can I put them to work? And that's where, you know, we all come in.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the word loyalty causes some challenges in our industry, because people naturally think about loyalty programs, loyalty cards, and things like that. And I think a term we often use at Cendyn is guest recognition, because actually, you're right, what you can use the technology, because technology is an enabler. It shouldn't really be driving necessarily your strategy of your business. It should just enable what you're trying to achieve to do it in a more effective way. So how do you recognize a guest, and how can you create that loyalty through recognition rather than through a formal program? I still think hoteliers, maybe it's from the historic time where people thought, oh, I must have some sort of membership number or something like that, and I think that's something hoteliers should think about moving away from, and really focus on, okay, if I know who my guests are, what they like, what they want to do, what's their purpose of staying, then you can actually drive that more personalized experience that will drive loyalty. If I go to a hotel for business, my needs are very much different to when I go with my family, as an obvious example.
Do you not think that the loyalty programs, though, can drive loyalty for business providers, so that they then get that benefit of being able to maybe go back to that hotel or another hotel in the group for a free stay that they've earned on company time?
They do, and that's why, if you look at loyalty programs, it's mainly used by business travelers for that reason. But you have to stay quite a lot of nights to go and get a decent enough reward, in my opinion. And you're talking to someone here who's probably got every single loyalty program card in this industry. So no, you are absolutely right, and I'm not disputing that. You know, in one of my previous companies I worked for, we actually moved away from a loyalty card and program from a sort of redemption perspective to a recognition perspective. So what we started to do was actually offer our frequent guests across the brands the opportunity to do an experience that they wouldn't typically go and do, whether it be like a cooking experience with a Michelin star chef or something like that. And we found that actually drive greater loyalty than we ever got from just offering, okay, you stay with us 50 nights and you get 1 night free. That's from just what we found from our experience.
Yeah, I had the same experience, and I'm talking here, because in Paris, we started in Paris 5 years ago, and we have tons of independent boutique hotels here. And yes, when you have a group of 50 hotels, the guests will come back again and again and again. But if you are a single boutique independent hotel, and your guest is not a business traveler coming often to your city, he might come back one time in 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So if he had to add point and point and point before to get a reward, he would just, it's not working. That's why I agree with you, John. It's better to just immediately give a little extra. It's okay, next time you come back, special experience, special this, special that, little discount. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's as well. Sorry, it's about it's adapting for every different hotel need, isn't it? So I think you both just brought up really relevant points there. That it's dependent on the type of travel, it's dependent on the type of guest, and also it's dependent on the type of hotel. So for big chains, it's really going to potentially be that type of loyalty scheme that works like that. But in addition to having that, system with whatever they use, they still need to have that guest recognition. And it's not just about, okay, let me check off your list and you get points for coming this time and staying X number of nights. It's also, having that person have a tie to the brand. They want to be feel passionate about it and say, actually, do you know what? I want to stay at that hotel chain, or I want to stay there because I know I always get an incredible experience. And it's not just about me having points or me getting that extra free night, for example. So I think it's about tailoring it to the type of hotel, but also making sure that, to John's point, that guest recognition is always there because it's so important now.
Yeah. I wanted to quickly come back because Tony's market, the French market is, or Paris is specifically, is made of a lot of independent hotels. But looking into words, dailypoint is a native German system, and I'm from the German market, so I know that the majority of the hotels are still independent. So how do you reflect in relation to the German market, to loyalty, and in relation to independent hotels? Alexander, if you are still here.
Sorry.
Are we losing you?
Do you hear me?
We can hear you quite poorly. Yeah. Well, we all know about the German internet as well, so.
No, but
I see you're all familiar.
Can I just, whilst Alexander sorts out his microphone, just on your point though about the German market and being independent hotels, we have a customer in Hong Kong, and unfortunately they're going through a very difficult time at the moment in that market. It's an independent hotel, medium-sized property, and what they recognised as an independent, they couldn't compete with the big brands. And so what they did was they took a different approach, and they said, right, okay, how do I get a guest to engage with my brand, my individual hotel? Because that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about a hotel engaging with that guest, whether it be around loyalty, recognition, or even just communication. And so what they did was they encouraged their guests to actually engage with them. And as a thank you, when you checked in, the minibar was free, as an example. And so there are tactics hotels can do that actually you don't have to be part of a chain, that can really drive that communication between you and that guest. And that's really, I think, the critical element to this.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I think when we talk about big loyalty programs, it's also really crucial to find or to evaluate the size of your business before you jump into the big loyalty programs, because apparently for like under 30,000 rooms, a loyalty program, like a big one that we talk about, is not really profitable for that size of the business in general. So, and also visitors or guests really, as was mentioned earlier, really like nowadays immediate services, something nice, like immediate surprises, rather than just collecting points.
Going towards technology, a couple of you were mentioning, Nikki was mentioning data. So where are the points where you're all capturing data throughout the customer journey that you are using to thrive loyalty, but to thrive this guest experience, this seamless experience?
Well, guys, I think for all of us, the one of the key sources is still the property management system. That's where we always say, the PMS is for managing rooms and we're for managing guests. So I think that's the mandatory number one thing to connect to. I think but by now it's a few dozens that an average, the Cendyn dailypoint, everybody, all of these guys, including us, connect to. But other than that, other than the number of nights spent, there's so many more systems nowadays with personal identifiable information that you can plug into and that you can relate to the guest. And I think all of us are looking at what other, let it be food and beverage, let it be pre-arrival preference planner surveys, during stay surveys. There's so many touch points now, and you mentioned as well, John, when the Wi-Fi, or are they using the spa? Like, all of this adds to a guest profile. And at the end of the day, you could be a guest that's always looking for the lowest room rate, spending €99. But if you end up buying, an expensive bottle of wine and you get the nice spa treatment, and then you also book the, golf beginners class, you end up being a high value guest. And that's what we want to capture. And that's, again, where, multiple systems come in place and not just the PMS. Not all of them make sense, and I think at one point, it could also be a little scary if you, track what they're watching on TV and you measure their room temperature and what they grab from the bar. But there are relevant systems, and make sure you get a pretty good, complete 360 picture of your guest, and that can add to the personalized experience at the end. That's what they want.
But then it's also important. I hope you guys can hear me now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, then it's also important. It's just very good, Patrick, what you said. Bring all this data together in one system. But it's really also important to bring all this data back to all these operating systems, for example, the PMS and so on, to give the guests a better experience and to help the hoteliers to give the guests a better experience. Because it's also like on the employee side in hotels, education is not that good anymore. People have to be trained in a very short time and have to deliver a good service still. So this is why we as a CRM system have to help the hoteliers with their operating systems to give a better experience. For example, what we do is also like based on interest or based on the score that they have in the CRM, bring back maybe like when guests check in, a pop-up message in the PMS that says, hey, this is a premium best customer, invite him for a welcome drink, for example. So this is actually stuff that like in the fast food industry, they have that already, like with their POSs, where they have people that are trained in only a couple of days, but then the POS guides them through everything. And I think this is also good if, like, we as the CRMs bring the data more back to all the other systems and help the hoteliers.
Can I just jump in?
I wanted to jump in. Go, John. I'm jumping in.
Actually, with regard to pushing data back into a PMS, you're right. That's a pretty standard having a two-way interface for a CRM company. What you have to be very careful, though, if I may say, is not every third-party system out there can actually accept the data you push back.
Yeah.
The data you store within a CRM against a guest profile is far more rich than some of the systems.
Sure.
About Oracle's Opera, then fine. But if you're talking about certain spa systems or golf systems or whatever, that's not such an easy thing to do. And as a hotelier, especially when sometimes budgets get a little bit tight, should I say, or have to be careful with your spend, that you want to be a little bit careful. So there are actual ways of getting around actually having to push data back into various different third-party systems. The lookup model you just talked about, Alexander, on a PMS, that's again quite a standard feature. But there are other tools out there, both owned by CRM companies and other companies as well, that are really good guest engagement tools that hoteliers can use by their staff across a property that really are pretty good.
Yeah, I wanted to say the exact same thing than you, John. We have a French expression which is trying to put an elephant into an ashtray, and sometimes it's French.
Okay.
It's a French expression. In CRM, sometimes you have so much data about the guest that you're looking at the PMS, you're like, where do I put them? There is no field for that.
I was not talking about. Sorry, Tony. No, I mean, I was not talking about to push all the data back to the other systems. Of course, they cannot hold it because therefore they have that they could use a PMS if the PMS could hold all the data that you collect. That's why we have CRMs. But
Exactly.
I'm talking about use this data only for specific reasons. For example, triggering a alert in the PMS that says, "Hey, this is a valuable guest. Invite him for a welcome drink." Like this. If the PMS, and John, you're right, if the PMS supports this triggering, for example, or use the data that you have, and like when you calculated interests maybe of the guest, and okay, this guy has an interest in golf, for example. Let's say again, then use this for dynamic content on the website. Make the website more personal for the guest. This is also where we what we talked about before, that everything starts when the guest hits the website and is looking for a room or your product. Yeah. So not pushing back all the data, of course, that's not possible, but use it to trigger certain events. Yeah.
Agree.
We are kind of in the middle of, like, we have to wrap up in a few minutes, but I wanted to ask you in general, one of the buzzwords for 2020 is openness, or open APIs, open integration, transparency. How do other systems actually work with you to get this connectivity all together and give you this data? How open are the partners for an integration?
Joe, I'm happy to go first.
Yeah.
So actually pretty open. We have a middleware platform that allows any third-party company to either write to our API or we can write to theirs. So we're open, and through the 150 integrations we have, we connect all different types of system in different ways. So you have to, I think, and I'm sure my colleagues on this call would all say the same, you have to have that ability as a CRM to be able to take that data and bring it in. So we're all pretty open to it. It's just working out the best way with that third-party vendor to bring that data into the CRM.
Mm-hmm.
While protecting it all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, data protection is a whole other session that we have to do.
Yeah, you said it all, John. It's perfect. It's exactly that.
Yeah, and already, for example, Nea and Patrick, so you're already capturing a lot of data with different other tools within the Revinate system, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. So I think, you were mentioning independent hotels, but of course this whole situation, gets to a different level when you talk about groups and having groups with, whatever, 10, 15, 20 or even more hotels. How do you capture that from multiple systems within the hotels, and how do you group it all and bring it into one, group, what we call, rich guest profile, group guest profile, keep it updated. On the one hand, of course, excuse my language, it's sexy to connect to all these different, systems within the hotel tech landscape, but also at the end of the day, you need to make sure it's all usable and visible in a good way in one of these profiles. That, I think Alexander said it, use it for dynamic content or use it for, website personalization, all that, it needs to make sense at the end of the day. And a lot of the partners that we talk to, they're implementing a CRM for maybe the first time. So that's what we say, let's not plug in 20 systems right from the start. Let's do it with your PMS. Let's add the survey data, and let's go step by step, and not try to plug in everything you can. John said it: API in, API out. Those are the magic words. But especially when you speak with first timers, no need to rush things. There's a lot we can do with PMS data and survey data.
Okay. Thank you. So a quick last question from everybody. A single sentence, if you can say, obviously we are dealing here with a situation that is impacting the whole guest journey and impacting all the hotels. What would you advise to the hotels in the times now, coronavirus? Should we look into capturing guests now, or should we look into the future and see how we can fix the future, let's say so. So if we could start with Alexander, to give a bit of advice to the hotels that are watching now.
Well, that's difficult to answer. But I mean, me as a hotelier, I would try to, for example, get more guests that are closer to my destination actually, and would market them for this time, instead of going like globally, and then also build up relations already for or hit the market for the future in global, but more market to the people around my destination right now.
Nia and Patrick?
Yeah, I also think it's a very difficult situation at the moment, but I think there are also other ways. So part of what Alexander just said, there are also other ways of revenues that you can also generate with the guests that you have. So in order to compensate the amount of cancellations, which is very unfortunate at this stage, but really focus on direct bookings instead of OTA bookings, also target those guests that are still willing to travel.
Nikki, piece of advice?
I would say, with my classic marketing hat, of course, true to my heart, be transparent and communicate. I think the most important thing that you can do in these really challenging times is being honest and open with, your customers, with your potential customers, and really position your brand in a way that means you're open and that you understand the difficult situation. And that, obviously it's going to be really turbulent. It's going to be challenging. You can do those things, Neha and Alexander, what you mentioned, absolutely. I think they're critical. But I think, fundamental to this is being transparent with your customers, and if it is a challenge, if it may be difficult to accept. Everyone's different. I think just having that is key.
John?
I agree with everything that's been said. So some people aren't going to travel to certain destinations, so you do need to try and find other ways to drive revenue. The best thing I can say is actually what a local hotel to me has done. Targeted me because I live within 25 miles of the hotel, and it's targeting me to try and get there for dinner and doing special offers that way and promotions, which I thought was incredibly clever because I know they're suffering on occupancy. So I think look at your hotel, look at your location, look at your segmentation of your customer base, and target with a relevant message that actually will appeal to someone more local. You can't stop people, the situation with people not getting on planes, for example. So we have to react and try and make the best we can, and utilize customers like systems like us and other tech companies out there in the hospitality space us to try and help.
Tony, Paris.
So me, I received a very nice message a few days ago. It was from my stepbrother who is living in Italy. He just text me and said, "Hey, I'm fine. Everything is good here. No need to worry." I was really scared for him, to be honest. And I think this message is the best advice I could give to hoteliers. Just send a mail to all your guests. maybe some personalized segment or anything, but communicate and say, we're good, we're fine, we're not dying here, It's just, yes, there is a situation, but we are fine. You can come visit us and it would be a pleasure. We are fine, the city is fine, and people around us are fine. Just share some enthusiasm, some good news. It would be good, in this dark time.
Yeah. Angeline?
Exactly the same as what everyone else said, but I would also be pushing back to my providers as well as hoteliers. So you pay them money, like you pay Profit Room money for their clients, push back to them and look for advice. We're already putting together on-tour events, mailers out just to try and provide that revenue advice on how to push out. Exactly like John said, go for your local customers opposed to the people that are stopping over. And we're going to look at trying to do some free trials and just trying to push back. Booking.com, for example, will be losing money as well. So, they're going to have advice. So go log into your extranet and get that advice.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you ever so much for making it again. Let's catch up soon again with the same panel, and let's continue the discussion because I think we only touched the surface now. But we get on to the next session, AI panel. So thank you, Alexander, Neha and Patrick, Nikki, John, Tony, and Angeline. Thank you so much for joining me here in Berlin.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
And I can talk with you really, really soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Enzo?
Yes. So we're still live, and it's only us now. And what's going on?
Yeah, so play some music, DJ, because we have got to move this camera down to the open mic room and start the AI panel. See you
All
now.
right.